Hello, my name's Nicola and this is my little craft room. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to do a linked treble crochet in UK terminology or a linked double crochet in US terminology. I'll mostly be using UK terminology throughout this video, but if you're using US terminology, it would be a double. Now this is a really interesting stitch because normal treble crochet would be linked at the top and linked at the bottom, and then there wouldn't really be much holding the stitches together, and sometimes you can get your nails through, you can get a hook through in the middle, and there's a gap, you can see through it. This ties the stitches in the middle, so you cannot see through, you can't catch things can't go through the middle of the stitches because you are quite literally wrapping them together with that middle. So those bars that pop out there is how you're going to connect it. And I find this is a really interesting fabric because it's a much more solid fabric. It makes for great garments. I use this in one of my patterns because you can't see through the stitches, so it creates a much more solid piece. And especially if you're wanting to do something to cover your top, you're not going to be able to see through it. So I'll be teaching you how to form the stitch itself, and I'll be showing you how to make increases, decreases, and also how to make a foundation row in linked treble crochet. So first I'm going to show you how to form the basic stitch. I've already started myself off because I just want to show you the stitch itself before we start getting into any of the complicated bits. But I formed a first row. For this I'm going to chain 2 to get up to my stitch height. Now in the first stitch you are just going to have to make a normal treble or a normal double because there's nothing to link it to. This is the first stitch of the row. So I'm just going to form my treble in the usual way. Now for the second stitch, I'm going to get my yarn over from under this middle bar in the stitch, just there. And that's instead of doing my usual yarn over before I put the stitch in, I'm going to go into this bar, that middle bar that's going across my stitch. So I'm going to put my hook from the top down into that bar, yarn over, and pull through. So that is going to act as my yarn over like I would in a standard treble. But the rest of the stitch you would form exactly the same. So I'm going to go in, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So the rest of the stitch is identical. It's all about where you're getting your first yarn over from. So for this stitch, you can see that bar, that horizontal bar. That's where I'm going. Into there, yarn over, pull a loop through, and then form the rest of the stitch normally. And those bars will start to pop out at you once you start looking for them and recognizing them. So the next one you can see horizontal there, and I'm going to go in, pick up my yarn over, and then go and form the rest of the stitch. There's my bar, and form the stitch normally. And you will see it does start to make a little line that goes across. I don't mind that, but that's where they're linked together. That's almost like the little tie holding them together. But this is the reason I like this stitch, is because rather than just being joined at the top and the bottom, you have that little join in the middle, and it creates a much more solid fabric without being able to see through or get things caught in between the stitches. So there's my bar, in, pull up my loop, and form the stitch normally. So if I pull that, you can see the bar holding those stitches together in the middle. I can't get my thumb through like I might be able to with a normal treble. Now, if I wanted to make an increase stitch, that is just as simple as an increase in any other stitch. You would just put 2 in the same place. So I would go in, pick up my yarn over, go into the next stitch and form it normally, and then just create another stitch in the same place. So I would go in there, pick up my yarn over and form the stitch. So that at least is rather logical. You're just putting two in the same place. Decreases are a little fiddly, but still very doable. So if you wanted to do a decrease, go in, pull up your loop and start the stitch, pull through, leaving two on your loop. Now you still want to link this decrease together, so you are going to go back, but you've not finished. So you're going to go into that bar, but not through that second one. So just that one, not that one. It's a little fiddly because it's where you've just come out of, but you can still pull up your loop and go into the next stitch, form the other half of the treble, and then pull through. So you can just about see those two stitches have been decreased into one, but they are still linked. So I'll show you that one again. Start off same way that we have, in to pull up your yarn over, in, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through two, leaving those last two, back into the bar, careful not to lose the loop you've just put through, but you only want to go in the bar, pull up. See, I almost lost that loop then, so you do have to keep an eye on it. Just going to separate those back out. There we go. So that's the loop I've just pulled up, and then into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through two, and then pull both of those together into a decrease. And for the next stitch, if you need to do another stitch, that bar has twisted up slightly, so it's that one. It has upturned a little, but that's just because it's trying to compete with all the other yarn ends. Next thing I'm going to show you is how to make a foundation chain. So I quite like these as a starting for any project because they give a really nice neat edge on the chain side, and I really like it, especially if you're planning on picking up stitches to start crocheting in the other direction. It's really easy and clear to see where you're picking up your stitches. So I use these a lot, but you're going to start off with a standard slip knot. Now I'm going to chain three. I'm going to wrap my hook and I'm going to go into the first chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now if this were a normal treble, I would yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, but because I'm making my foundation chain, I need to just add one loop. I'm going to basically chain just with that first loop on the hook. So I'm going to yarn over and just go through that one. That's created a chain stitch that I'm going to use as the basis for my next stitch. So you always have to remember to add that extra one in. It sometimes does feel a little difficult to remember, but that's where you're going to need to go into for your next stitch. But once I've done that, I can just finish off my treble. So yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. Now you can see that bar there is the one that we were just looking at. So that is where I'm going to go into to pick up the loop for my treble. So I'm going to go into that bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, and that is my yarn over. Now I said we were going to go back into that chain, so that's where my hook's going to go, into that chain that I made in the first stitch. Yarn over and pull through, but like I said, I'm going to have to make a new chain every stitch. So I'm yarn over and pull through one, and now I finish my treble. Yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. And I've now made two linked trebles. So that's my bar. These bars will start to pop out. You'll start to recognize them after you've done a few of these. So that's where I'm going to grab my loop from. And then that one there is where I'm going to go into for the basis of my next stitch. Pull up my loop, Don't forget to add one extra chain for the next stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we're starting to form our foundation chain here. I'm going into this bar now, pull up a loop. This is the foundation, pull up a loop but add a chain, and then finish my treble. I do have a more comprehensive video on a foundation chain if you wanted to go through it in a little more detail. This is mainly to show you how it would translate to a linked treble or a linked double in US terminology. So that's my bar, that's where I'm going in, picking up my first yarn over, and that is where I'm going to go and make my stitch. Need to add my bottom chain, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Pick up my yarn over, go into the bottom, add my chain, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. If you're struggling to see where your next bar is, sometimes straighten it out, because it does have a tendency to force itself sideways because you are working it sideways. So sometimes forcing it to straighten out suddenly makes that bar pop out, and it gets a little easier to recognize where you're going in to pick up your yarn over. And there we go. That is how you form a linked treble crochet, including how to do increases, decreases, and form a foundation row. I really hope you found this useful, and thank you so much for watching.